going on, everybody? It's Richard Cobra here, the Blue Collar Nerd, and welcome to the first release notes video of 2025! First on these release notes. Actually, do you mind if I edit myself into something more comfortable? I can't hear you. There we go, that's better. All that partying makes you thirsty. It's water, okay? It's water. Everybody relax. Everybody relax. I know I am. Stop it, it's water, it's water. All right, first on these notes, we have the first y'all item of the year, and one very worthy of the slot because this is one that people have been asking for a long time. We have the weekly view of the dispatch board. So on the dispatch board here, we're on our daily view, should look pretty familiar, but up here in the upper left-hand corner, we have this drop-down where we can switch to weekly. This drop-down, by the way, is also where we'll go to map 2.0 if that is something that you use. But let's click into the weekly view here. And when we arrive, we'll see our dispatch board kind of separated into two sections. There's the dispatch board itself and then the jobs tray. Now we also have the jobs tray on the daily view. The jobs tray is that area down here at the bottom. But here on the weekly view, we're trying to fit more information onto the screen all at once, and so real estate is very precious, and for that reason, the jobs tray is slidable, so we can kind of slide it out of the way when we don't need it. Alternatively, the jobs tray also has these up and down buttons here where we can kind of move it down or up in increments. And just like on the daily view, the jobs tray is where we see all of our unassigned jobs, or we have different tabs. We can see our assigned jobs, our alerts, jobs that are on hold, paused, and canceled. One enhancement with this jobs tray though is that when we have jobs that are not assigned yet, so they're sitting in unassigned, we can assign technicians here from this drop down. So for example, if I wanted to assign this job here to Harry, I can just check him off, hit assign on assign, give it a second, I'll get this message at the upper right-hand corner that the technician was assigned, and now that job is not under unassigned anymore. All right, let me slide this out of the way and show you how the board itself is kind of organized. So just like on the daily view, the board is separated into teams, and those teams can be collapsed and expanded. We'll see the technicians under those teams, and then we have our dates here at the top. So this is Monday the 30th, then Tuesday the 1st, Wednesday the 2nd, etc. So here we can see everything that is assigned to Bob here on Wednesday the 2nd. He's got 2 appointments and 1 training non-job event. We also get a summary there at the top. It says 2 appointments and 3 total hours. And just like with teams, individual technician schedules can be collapsed and expanded as well. And with a technician collapsed, you still see those overviews of how many appointments and how many total hours per day they have. Now we still have our date selector here at the top. The difference is that now the date that you're selecting is the date that's going to be furthest left. It's the first date for this week that we're seeing. So you're gonna see 7 total days starting with whatever date you have selected here. And of course, by default, it's today's date, and if you're browsing around and you need to snap back to today, you just click this today button. Now with this much information, it's gonna be a pretty lengthy scroll, especially if you've got a big team of technicians, so the filters are gonna be very important here. So by clicking this filter icon here, we can filter down for specific business units, specific teams, or specific skill sets. But we also have this search box here where we can search for specific teams or technicians. So for example, if I know, hey, I just need to see what Ken's schedule looks like, I can just type in Ken's name up here, check him off, and then boom, that filters me down to just Ken. And if I needed to see multiple technicians, I could check off more than one, and then I can look at both of those at the same time. By the way, on any given appointment here, we have this little kebab menu in the upper right-hand corner of the job bubble or the appointment bubble. And from that, we can confirm a job, assign it, unassign it, mark it as dispatched, or cancel the dispatch, or reschedule the job. And if we click on the appointment bubble, then we get that same flyout that we get on the daily view. Or alternatively, it'll open up the appointment page if you have this flyout disabled. Howdy, y'all. All right, next, I'm keeping the y'all hat on. We have the improved dispatch messaging experience on the daily dispatch board. This might ring a bell because I went over it a little bit in the last release notes video because it was going into early access, and now it is generally available. But to recap, previously to send a technician a text message from the dispatch board, you'd have to click on their name over here and say send message. And then when the technician replied, that reply would go into a feed that was mixed in with other alerts like technicians dispatching and arriving and all of this other information, so the replies could get buried. So now instead of that experience, we have this little button up here, this little text bubble that we can click, which opens up the new experience. So from here, we can see all of our messages or just unread messages. We can filter for just technicians in specific teams or just specific business units. We can click this little plus button up here to compose a new message and then pick whichever technician we want to send a message to from there. So we could type in our message, hit send. We could also choose this checkbox down here if we wanted to attach the message to the technician's current job. And we have this little paperclip icon if we wanted to attach like a picture or something. And if we wanted to send an announcement, like a mass text message to all of our technicians, we'd click this button right here, which takes us to that mass text message page. Howdy, y'all. All right, next under Enterprise Hub. And just as a reminder, Enterprise Hub is a feature for enterprise-sized operations that need to manage multiple ServiceTitan accounts or tenants. If that's not you, then feel free to skip this section. I always chapter these videos out to make that easy to do. So in Enterprise Hub, we now have two new reporting templates, Enterprise Hub Users and Enterprise Hub Roles. And these reports will show you an overview of all your Enterprise Hub users' roles or permissions. And that's across all of your tenants in Enterprise Hub. Previously, there was no centralized place to view all of that information, and if you wanted it in one report, you would have to request it from ServiceTitan. But now, with these new reporting templates, that's no longer the case. Next, you can now mark Pricebook items as inventory within the centralized Pricebook. So before, the centralized Pricebook and Enterprise Hub lacked the ability to mark items as inventory, meaning that had to be done on the individual tenant level. But now you can mark items as inventory, and that will sync across all of your tenants. Now, because marking an item as inventory is an action that can't be undone, there is a safeguard in place to prevent reversal. You'll also be required to assign an asset account for each inventory item to ensure the correct financial categorization. And by the way, you also have bulk edit support here, so you can mark multiple items as inventory all at once. All right, next, under the improvement section for Enterprise Hub, we have faster performance for key reporting templates in Rollup reports. So key reports will now run 65% faster on average, and some of the most complex reports now run 10 times faster. Now, right now, these optimizations have only been done for key report templates, and those report templates include jobs, invoice items, invoices, estimates, customers, locations, equipment, applied payment, and master pay file. And we do plan to add these optimizations to more report templates going forward. Okay, next, there's now a new pending state for reports in Rollup reporting. So previously in Enterprise Hub's Rollup reporting, scheduled reports were tied to individual users rather than tenants. So that meant that when users were deactivated, their scheduled reports became inaccessible. So now there's a new pending state and tab that's been added alongside the active and inactive tabs. So now when a user is deactivated, their scheduled reports automatically move into pending. So now other users with the proper permissions can now claim ownership and reactivate those reports. Next, we have some more granular centralized Pricebook permissions for more control and security. So previously, the centralized Pricebook didn't have granular permissions, and so anyone with access could perform pretty much any action. They could create, delete, edit, whatever they wanted to do. But now we have granular role-based permissions for key actions such as creating and deleting Pricebooks, editing item costs, and modifying general information. So that allows admins to set specific access levels. For example, regional admins can be limited to just their specific region. If you'd like to see a detailed list of exactly what these new permissions are, those are listed out on the release notes document, which I'll link in the description box down below. All right, next, under job booking and contact experience, Second Chance Leads is now available for basic phones. So you might be familiar with Second Chance Leads by now. It's been around for a while as a feature for Phones Pro, and I've also covered it a little bit because it was going into early access in previous releases. And now it is generally available as a feature you can have even with basic phones. And if you're not familiar with Second Chance Leads, basically what it does is when a CSR ends a call without booking a job, the transcript for that call is going to be analyzed by Titan Intelligence. And if Titan Intelligence believes that that call could be saved with a follow-up call, then it's going to go into this Second Chance Leads bucket. And it's going to do that even if the CSR manually classified the job as not a lead. You're also able to set up notifications so that a manager can be immediately notified when something lands into Second Chance Leads. And when calls do land in Second Chance Leads, you're able to quickly review them because you have the transcript for the call as well as a Titan Intelligence generated summary of what happened on that call, allowing you to quickly call that customer back and potentially save the lead. Now, just to be clear with what's happening here, Second Chance Leads is no longer a Phones Pro exclusive feature, but it is still a paid add-on. But you're now able to purchase it a la carte without Phones Pro. And if your company position is set as business owner or general manager in your profile settings, then you can purchase Second Chance Leads directly through the ServiceTitan interface. So no need to speak to a sales rep or your CSM or anything like that. All right, next under job planning and management, the user interface for task management has been updated. So no major changes here. Everything as far as functionality with task management is still exactly the same. It's just that the user interface has been updated to be more cohesive with the rest of ServiceTitan. All right, next we have some improvements to the recurring service events follow-up page. So first of all, we've got a bit of a visual refresh here. Things just match the rest of ServiceTitan's interface better. We also have some new columns and new filters. So for example, we have a business unit column here and a business unit filter that was not available before. Membership ID and membership status are also new columns. Plus recurring service tags and location tags. These columns sort of existed before, but they were behind a feature gate, and now they're just available for everybody. And those recurring service tag and location tag columns also come with filters associated with them. Oh, and membership status as well, that also has its own filter. Also, with these filters, we now have the option to check off multiple things, so we can filter for multiple things at once, whereas before it was single select, so you had to filter for one thing at a time. So if I wanted to filter for both of these recurring service types, I could do that. And that applies to all of these filters. You can now filter for multiple things all at once. Okay, next under mobile, we have some enhanced security with a new login screen across all of ServiceTitan's mobile apps. So basically, when logging into a ServiceTitan mobile app, you'll now see a new login button that redirects you to a page to enter your login credentials. Functionally, this isn't really doing a whole lot right now, but this is a back-end infrastructure thing that lays the foundation for multi-factor authentication in the future. Okay, next under payroll and timesheets, Payroll Approval now has a new locking mechanism and associated permissions. So if we come to the Payroll Approval dashboard, you'll notice a new tab here called Locked. So there's now separate permissions for somebody to just be able to approve payrolls by manager or approve and lock, and also separate permissions for undoing each of those actions respectively. So if I'm a manager, I'm reviewing this and I want to approve Jamie's payroll here, I can say approve by manager, and that will move it into manager approved. And then somebody else could come in here and either undo the approval or lock, assuming they have those appropriate permissions. So now if I want to lock this in, I can come in here and click lock. And now that moves it over into the locked tab. So this is a mechanism that's especially helpful for larger companies where you can now get more and more restrictive as it moves along. So for example, you would have a larger pool of people with the permission to mark stuff as approved versus to have the ability to lock things. And then you would taper down, you'd have an even smaller group of people who are able to undo approvals. And then once things are locked, you would have a very, very select few people who are able to undo that locking. So it's just a mechanism to give you even more control of who can do what. So of course, all of that has associated permissions, so allow manager approving of payrolls, allow undoing of manager approved payrolls, allow locking payrolls that have been manager approved, and then allow unlocking payrolls that have been locked. So if you want to get really granular with that control, you can come in here and manage who has those specific permissions. All right, next I'm busting out the y'all hat one more time for our old friend. We know him, we love him. We've busted out the y'all hat for him before, but he's worth one more. It's the global search. Now we've talked about global search in the release notes before, but it's on the release notes once again because it is finally out to every single ServiceTitan user. Last we talked about it, it was still rolling out, and like I mentioned in that video, it was a slow rollout that was separate from the release cycle just because of the indexing that had to be done on the back end. And now it is available for everybody, so every ServiceTitan user now has this very nice global typo-tolerant search right there at the top of their navigation bar. And of course, you can also summon it at any time with the keyboard shortcut Control/. I love the global search. It's been getting great feedback, and as I've expressed before, I really think it's going to be a very integral part of how we use ServiceTitan going forward as it gets more and more features. All right, next under supply chain, WinSupply is now an integrated procurement vendor. So with integrated vendors, you're able to send your POs directly from ServiceTitan to the vendor's software with no need to email. You're also able to see the vendor's live stock and your specific pricing. ServiceTitan already has a catalog of integrated vendors, and now WinSupply is one of them. And you set these up by going to Settings, Integrations, and Vendors, choosing the vendor that you want to integrate, and then following the on-screen instructions. And on a related note, this month, ServiceTitan is rolling out its first batch of regional suppliers to go live with the full procurement integration. And that first wave of regional suppliers is going to be APR Supply, Famous Supply, and Reese/Morsco. All right, next under Dispatch Pro, under Coming Soon, Dispatch Pro will soon have the option for you to take over more control with Dispatch Assist. So with Dispatch Assist, you'll be able to have Dispatch Pro offer you suggestions, and then you manually approve those suggestions versus Dispatch Pro just doing things on its own. This will be a good option for people who are new to Dispatch Pro and are still getting it honed in, or people who just prefer to have more manual control. Dispatch Assist will of course be an option and not an obligation, so if you prefer to give Dispatch Pro more control, you can still do that as well. All right, next under Scheduling Pro now supports cross-tenant routing. So basically this means if you're one of those enterprise level companies that has multiple ServiceTitan accounts or tenants, you can now route customers through Scheduling Pro to different schedulers across different tenants using one single website. So for example, if you had different ServiceTitan tenants in different locations, you could route them based on zip or postal code and just send them to the right scheduler so that they get scheduled in the right ServiceTitan tenant without the need for additional web pages or websites. We've also got some other small enhancements to Scheduling Pro. For example, you can now put clickable links into your schedulers. So for example, if you had like a terms and conditions document that you wanted to link in there, you could do that. And you also have some more flexible icon options as well. And finally, under Early Access. Now, as a reminder, anything in Early Access, those are features that are coming soon, but are not generally available with this release. So you're not going to automatically see these features. However, you can request to have them turned on to be a part of their testing if you so desire. Just keep in mind that by doing so, you are accepting the risk of potentially encountering more bugs than you would have if you waited until it was generally available. So first in the Early Access section is Adaptive Capacity Planning. So this is an upcoming feature that will eventually replace adjustable capacity planning. Adaptive capacity planning allows you to set up rules to automatically adjust capacity using if-then statements. And there's lots of strategies that you could utilize this with, like let's say as you're starting to kind of ramp into the busy season, but you still have some maintenance to do, you want to make sure that you front load all of that maintenance on the earlier part of the day so that as demand calls come in, you have capacity open for them. You're also able to choose whether these rules will be continuous or just for a set period of time. Adaptive capacity planning just offers you more adjustability in general as well. For example, you can remove business unit as a limitation so that if you have technicians who work in more than one business unit, that doesn't have to be a problem the way that it does currently with adjustable capacity planning. It's only going into early access, so that's all I'll say on it for now, but this is something that will probably get its own dedicated video once it's fully available. If you are interested in being a part of the early access for adaptive capacity planning, there is a sign-up form which I will link in the description box down below. Next, under early access, we have the new contact management experience. So this is another upcoming feature, and this basically makes contacts their own entity in ServiceTitan that you can associate with various customers and locations. So instead of a contact just kind of being a field that you fill in on a customer or location and then have to copy over to other customers or locations in the case of like a property manager or something like that, instead the contact is its own separate thing that you tie to customers or locations. This feature also gives you the contact hub where you can go to manage all of your contacts, and it gives you the ability to merge contacts and do other cleanup tasks as well. This is going to be a very useful feature for anybody who works with property managers. And under early access for Enterprise Hub, it's only early access, all right, but I'm gonna go ahead and just put the hat on, just a little preemptive y'all hat. It's the ability to join multiple reporting templates together in Rollup reporting. This is a problem that probably every ServiceTitan user who heavily uses reports has run into at some point. You want two different KPIs, but they happen to live in different report templates, and so you can't see them at the same time. Well, with this feature, you'll be able to combine multiple data sets, multiple report templates into one report. Now, I will point out that not any template can be joined with any other template. There has to be some join entity or some ID that is shared between the templates. And yes, currently it's only available in Enterprise Hub via Rollup reporting. But I know that the team is aware that other non-enterprise size shops would also benefit from this. All right, and next under early access for Pricebook, I'm keeping my preemptive y'all hat on. The other direct costs feature is now in early access. So you know how in the Pricebook we have separate entities, we have services, we have materials, we have equipment. And these are different entities that can be tied together in various ways, and they can all be put onto invoices and estimates. Well, this feature is going to add a new entity to the Pricebook called Other Direct Costs so that you can separately track costs like subcontractors and permits versus just using like dummy materials, which is what a lot of people do now. But Anyways, that's all I got for today. Hey, if you like these videos and you want to see them keep coming, do me a favor and just leave me a comment saying so. My success here at ServiceTitan is gauged entirely by your feedback. Appreciate it. Happy 2025. Peace.